Hello YouTube, this is Dakota from Bowtied Media, and today we've got another installment of This Week in EDM, where we go over songs that came out this past week in EDM. I'm a little behind on stuff just because lots of work stuff, and I've got a baby coming in this month of February, my goodness. But yeah, so expect things to be a little bit slower maybe moving forward. But without any further ado, all these songs are in a Spotify link down below, and just remember, this is my opinion. Do not take them as gospel truth. Let's hop into it. Starting us off in the bad category is Deorro and Riot 10 featuring Cruze with 2 Da Floor. MORTEN paired with a Latin stylized rhythm was really not so high up on the ladder of things that I would genuinely find appealing or generally find appealing. And in execution, I think my thoughts were justified. Deorro and Riot 10 just have this super odd sense of half joking, half serious, but equally unable to find success in either direction. I don't think it's absolute trash, but I definitely don't think it's good by any means. Then we've got Gammer and RUNN with Roots, the festival VIP. I don't really care for this happy hardcore VIP, quite honestly. I think RUNN's vocals get nuked and the drops aren't nearly as engaging as the original was. Then we've got Sullivan King's Chaos Will Bring Peace from the EP of the same name. Definitely not loving this newest EP from Sullivan King. I get the sentiment of Chaos Will Bring Peace, and that's why the tracks have these really harsh and abrasive sound designs to them. But, I mean, this track in particular, I just don't find that it was done super tastefully. Then moving into the meh category, we've got Layton Giordani featuring Linney and Sarah Warren with Act of God. Pretty low-key, almost boring tech house track that just keeps itself quite calm, cool, and collected, opting out of any big movements or much tonal variation. Then we've got MORTEN and David Guetta featuring Fedde de la Grande, I want to say, with Night in Detroit. Another future rave track from the duo of MORTEN and David Guetta, and I don't think it's egregiously bad, but definitely not one of their strongest tracks in this genre. But hey, if you're from Detroit, I'm sure you'll love this track, and it'll be an anthem for years to come at the clubs and festivals. ARMNHMR featuring Trella with The Way We Had. A more commercial-leaning tune from ARMNHMR with an electropop sort of future bass, heavy first movement, and a more niche trance final movement. All that being said, though, the song does feel very safe and generic, which has sort of been ARMNHMR's MO for a while now, and I think the song is just fine. Club 99 with Dance With Me, the combined alias of Afinity and D-SAB. This is, typically a track from Club 909 I find to be pretty nice and fun, but this one is a little bit more on the generic kind of mindless side of things. Definitely is a track ripe for the club, and I think in that context it'll work quite well, but nothing really too special in my eyes. Then we got Valentino with The Sound from the new Panorama EP. A pretty typical tech house track with big bassline hits to get the more kind of moving and, get a greater sense of weight to the whole track, but overall didn't do a whole ton with the tone that really gave it something special or that kind of it factor. Then we've got Stephen Walking and Hige Driver with Nightmare Ninja. Glad to see another Stephen Walking release after almost 3 years now. This track does have all the kind of rumblings and tone of an old school kind of early days Monster Cat track, just without any real commanding drop or real big movements. The track does stay pretty level-headed and doesn't stray too much from the norm. Then we got Wales with Healing, a bro step first half and psytrance second. This track does fall into many tropes of the modern bass scene today, but does it, I would say, quite tastefully. If you're a Wales fan or just a dubstep psytrance fan, you'll definitely enjoy this one. We got Barely Alive and beastboi with Next to Me. I get that these two would kind of come together for a track that's rich in sound design and unique production, but to me, there's just too much going on, and the track is too short for me to really resonate with what's happening. But I do think the B-side is better too. Then moving into the good category, we've got Redlight, AC Slater, and SadBoi with Bitches Over Boys. The more I listen to this track, the more I do enjoy it. I don't love SadBoi's vocals, but again, the more I hear it, the more it kind of Get It, the kind of just club-focused female empowerment anthem. The production from Redlight and AC Slater is pretty great, deep house as well. Then we've got Kygo and OneRepublic with Chasing Paradise. You know, I had really low expectations for this track, but I found a lot of enjoyment from it. Is it the most diverse and sonically interesting track? No, not really. But is it a carefree kind of uplifting summer track? Hell yeah. And sometimes that's all a song needs to be. Then we got Stoned Level and MORTE with Lethal Strain from the new Stoned to Death album. A mixture of rhythm production and hip-hop lyricism, this track is one of the more impressive ones from a record for me that I did really like the flow of in terms of its track list and production. In general, I thought it was pretty good. Then we got Eyezic and Low Mileage with Heaven. A chill dance pop track that very much feels like a modern Bitbird release with lots of vocal chops, plucky synths, and a fairly short runtime. I do love the vibes of this track though. We got Control Alt Delete with Maniac, who is the combined, or I guess secondary alias of Don Diablo. But yeah, a relatively simple liquid drum and bass track that covers Michael Cimbello's iconic Maniac that was popularized from the movie Flashdance. But I will say though that this cover doesn't really feel egregiously bad. In fact, I think it did quite a good job of keeping the tone of the original while also mixing stuff up enough that it's not just another dance cover. We've got Andrew Bayer with The Way. A very uplifting and melodic trance cut with a longer runtime and lots of time for sound design to evolve all throughout, even with that kind of side trance and at times bass house finale. It's a neat track with a lot going well for it. Then we got Trivecta and ARMNHMR with Someone to Forget. After a fantastic album in Find My Way, we're starting to get some more deluxe tracks, as Trivecta is already back with a new single. And while I don't think this hits the highs of that record, I still think it's a relatively stronger commercial melodub track that does a good job of not feeling too generic by means of a grooving electric guitar and calming vocals from ARMNHMR. We got Imano and Road with All Too Late. A nice and simple drum and bass tune from Imano with his signature kind of moodier atmosphere and intense drum kit instrumentation. A neat track that sounds great, just didn't necessarily blow me away by Imano standards. Then we got Automate with Focal. Automate played things fairly tame in the first half of this track with a more classical dubstep sound with some breakbeat elements. And while he brought in that kind of full rhythm style for the last drop, it really was all wrapped in that breakbeat atmosphere that lent itself so nicely to either side of the dubstep production spectrum. Then we got Blue Claire and Jevin Julian with Space and Time, a funky house tune that relies a lot on nostalgic kind of sounding vocal samples and those kind of short analog synths for a style of sound that feels like it's kind of right out of the late 90s or early 2000s. A big fan of the sound design and structure of this tune. Then we got Hamdi with Abomination, a wild and wonky bassline track with a very minimalistic style of production and progression. The song pretty much has this singular linear movement, but Hamdi manages to do so much with it in terms of its sound design. Then we got Deorro featuring Farley with In Your Eyes, a great progressive melodic house tune with a strong vocal performance from Farley that really does elevate the track into something greater. I like the more calmer, more reserved moments, especially here on this track. Then we got the William Black remix of Wish I Could Forget, originally by Slander, Black Bear, and Bring Me the Horizon. I didn't love the original a whole ton, but I really do think that William Black's remix might just be the best version of this track. I think the intensity of the drops here paired much stronger with the vocals of the original, and overall the song is just more polished and a better mixed. Then we got Camoufly with Lamondo. My goodness, Camoufly is now tackling a sort of Latin stylized garage sound, and he's still knocking it out of the park. The song is fresh, clean, and gets you up and moving at a moment's notice. Then We got MDK with Button Masher, an energetic Complextro track that is perfect for this NCS Geometry Dash kind of collaboration project. Reminds me a lot of Nitrofun's early production, actually so much so that it's better than I think a lot of Nitrofun's more recent stuff that he's put out the last couple years. Then we got Tasaki with Bite My Style. This reminds me a lot of old school Tasaki with the aggressive trap production, big swings, and hip-hop influences. This track was a throwback for me, and you can just tell that Tasaki had a ton of fun with it. Then we've got Timmy Trumpet and Zenit featuring Kel with Addiction. I have no idea what happened to the song, whether Timmy Trumpet finally snapped out of his streak of terrible tunes, or someone just straight up ghost produced the song. Regardless, I think it's great. A little on the tamer side, but man, he really utilized that kind of trumpet playing to its maximum here, as it's quite frankly one of Timmy Trumpet's best songs of all time. The vocals are great, the mixing sounds amazing, the stutter progression is perfect. I don't know what juice Timmy Trumpet put into this track, but please, more of this. And finally, my number one song of this week is in the standout category, and it is FKA Twigs with Striptease from the new Eusexua LP. Quite frankly, this is actually one of my favorite songs of the last couple years. I think this album is great, and I think the song perfectly embodies all that is so good about the album. It's a more EDM adjacent track with bits of trap, drum and bass, and even some nostalgic trance chords here. But man, the vocals are fantastic, the production is immaculate, and the narrative is quite deep in itself. But that's been This Week in EDM. Let me know what you guys think of any and all songs in the comment section below. But other than that, I've been Dakota from Bowtied Media, and I'll see you guys in another video.